Hi, I'm Florence Theriault, and I'm here to share with you some more wonderful dolls from an incredible collection, that of Berta Leon Hackney of Hubbard, Texas, who collected for nearly 80 years and had wonderful dolls. I have on the table here in front of me just a selection of the categories of dolls she collected, because with Berta it was all about eclecticism, finding unusual things, things that were amusing and precious and delightful, the kind of things that are so rare to find today. For example, she specialized in dolls with sculpted hair and beautiful coiffures in bisque as well as in porcelain. She had these wonderful fellows, candy containers, gorgeous French bébés, the best of the best in couturier costumes, amusing little toys like this little fellow, and I'll be showing you more of them. Clowns were a special favorite of hers, and she has many wonderful, original, decorated French and German bisque clowns and automatons. Black dolls, a great collection of black dolls, highlighted by this superb, totally original black doll by Leon Casimir Brew, and one of the features, and lots number 1 and 2 in the catalog, this totally all original, tiny, because she loved little examples, little sizes 1 and 2, French doll, totally original Gemot, sitting in her winged cherub chair. So we're going to have fun for the next half hour looking at some of the wonderful selections that I pulled from what will be our 500 lots of fabulous dolls. We've entitled our book featuring the collection of Berta Leon Hackney, Only Child, because that she was, and a very, very lucky only child. At the age of 5, her father gave her a doll and said, you can have one a week as long as I'm here. And that continued throughout her life with her 2 wonderful, wonderful husbands. However, don't get the impression that this was a spoiled young child. Very, very sharing person, as she continued to be in life, as she's continued to be in sharing her collection with all of us. Berta told me that about 2 months after the only child story began, she saw 2 dolls she wanted. It was the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and she chose the Seven Dwarfs, and then she decided she wanted Snow White, and her father said no. And she said, but I want Snow White, and he said, no, you've already chosen. And she had a little temper tantrum in the store, and she said it was the only time he ever spanked me. So she had her standards, she had the way that she was raised to be a perfect child. She went to school one day, she brought hot chocolate. She said, I was very fortunate, I could bring hot chocolate. And there was a little girl there that didn't have anything to drink, and the teacher made me share with her. And I went home and cried and said, why did I have to share my hot chocolate? And my mom said, because not every child can have hot chocolate. So every week thereafter, when she brought her hot chocolate in, she brought in 2 hot chocolates to share with the other child. I tell you these stories because to me they explain a lot about the vision of a person behind their collecting, a curious nature, an interest in the very, very finest and rarest of dolls, and also in the very curious and unusual and just different type of things. This was Berta, and always a sharing person. Her magnificent large home in Hubbard, Texas, a Victorian home that she kept beautifully remodeled back to its Victorian Texas state, was open to people, from collectors from all over the world who came in, that she shared her collection with them. And now she wants to share it with all of us in this book and in the auction that will feature her dolls, and by the video that I'm going to show you just a fraction of the dolls she has. One of the last categories of collecting that Berta came to were dolls with sculpted hair. German bisque dolls with sculpted hair, and also German porcelain dolls with sculpted hair. Of course, she had collected some early on, but in the last perhaps 15 or 20 years of her collecting, Berta realized what a wealth of spectacular works of art these dolls were. And I'm happy to share them with you in the video because you have to see them all the way around to really capture them. I'm so frustrated when I do the catalogs and show the photograph in them, because I'll show the front and sometimes I'll show the back if there's a lot of detail, but it's the full dimension of these dolls that are important. And let me just take some now and show them to you by turning them completely around. These dolls were created to show historical people of the time, fashions of the time. Sometimes we've given them names, like we'll call them Empress Eugenie
or Queen Victoria or something of that nature. They were not necessarily portraits of those historic people. Remember, a queen at the time would have been an emblem of beauty to the women of that time, and they all would have done what they could to emulate her hairstyle, how she carried herself, the fashion of clothes she wore, and necessarily the doll makers would have done the same thing as well. Here's a very, very stunning example, and look at her in the front. All of the rarity points that you can point out would be, of course, the added feature of having the glass eyes. Wonderful sculpting of the hair, including the feathering around the face, and then this unheralded, spectacular headdress. And I'm going to slowly turn it so you can see when she's on the side. Look at her very, very regal profile with the aquiline shaped nose, the very aristocratic shaping of the nose, and how gracefully the headdress is draped onto her with the gold tassels coming around the back. A little added surprise you didn't expect to find when you first saw her from the front. The beading, the polka dots, the ruffled beading all around the front of the heart-shaped scarf around the front of her face, accented with little gold glitter, and then the details of the painting around the front of the scarf. An absolutely extraordinary piece. And not only so luxurious in its making, but the rarity of some of these pieces, now nearing 150 years old. This is just incredible to find them at all. Another one that was one of my special favorites is this very, very beautiful example. And when you look at her, she has a rare feature of brown hair. Much more often you will find blonde hair and then black, and then the rarest, the brown, the light brown hair. So here we have the beautiful brown hair, again, with the very, very detailed curls. And look when we come around. I think some of these hairstyles could really be back in fashion today with hair pieces. But look at how the hair is rolled around the back, and then big loops, and then look at the blue ribbon that is interwoven over all the back of the head. So if you're walking around sometime in a museum or at a doll show, and you say, oh, that's a pretty doll, sometimes it behooves you to turn around and look at the back of it, because sometimes it's just as beautiful in the back. When you have them on display in your home, it's also good to fashion them in such a way that people could see them from different angles, people being you as well as other people. She has pierced ears as well, which is another rarity factor. Now, I showed you the first doll that had the sculpted head wrap, and here is another one, the lady with the wonderful, very, very dainty, and look at the face on this one, for example, more rounded, not as angular as the others. So obviously representing, perhaps not a child, but not a very older lady either, but a child perhaps in their teenage years. And they're very, very gentle expression, blue glass eyes, and then the wonderful draping of this white scarf with the double layer of purple or lavender ruffles on them. One of the things I always think that people who are costuming their dolls, even if you don't collect this type of doll, you should study it, because it will show you how the correct drape went on the costume, and that's really important. And now we'll turn it around. You can see it from the side, and then you can see it from the back. Look at the scalloped bottom edge. Very, very important and extremely rare doll. She has a very charming, plump face. While we're continuing to work with examples with elaborate headdresses, this is one, get ready for when I turn this around the back and you see the back of it. Because when you're looking at the front, and again, I told you the blonde hair would be the more common, it's certainly not common, but the color hair that most appeared on these dolls, then black, and then brown. So this is a much rarer hair color to find. And one of the things you look for, and this really can show up on the black hair dolls, I call it feathering, and it's like little wispy parts of hair coming onto the forehead. And so instead of just a painted flat line, there has more detail to make it much more realistic. Very beautiful doll, and with this wonderful turban in blue and magenta that wraps around the top of her head, And there's the side. She has a wonderful little rounded nose, by the way. Very, very charming. And then look at the back of her hair. Wow. That is incredible how that is done. Little gilt accents really enhance the painting of the two-color scarf, by the way. And then wait, the final touch, when you get to here, the tassels coming down the side of her neck. Not tassels, but the long streamers coming down the side of her neck. So a very, very, certainly this was a lady who had someone do her hair for her, because you probably couldn't do this yourself. Very beautiful doll. And then I wanted to show you what became very popular and very expensive, very luxurious, because they're so rare to find today, and you never find them in totally 100% perfect condition, are the dolls that have what are commonly referred to as the Dresden ruffles, the Dresden ruffle design. I call it ribbon candy. And if you remember, I don't know if they still have this at Christmas. When I was a kid, there was ribbon candy that would go under a tree, and it's all that zigzag little candy. And that's what these ruffles always remind me of. Very, very difficult to make at the time. They must have been extraordinarily expensive to make, and had decorations, white with little blue, and then another row of beads, of gold beads, and then below that, the painting of the bodice. Sometimes they have painted eyes, sometimes they have glass eyes, and you could find the same model that would work that way. You find there was so much variation made on these models that sometimes you could find them with different color hair. You might find the same model, but the bodice would be painted differently, or there would be a feature on it and then not on the next one. They must have been very, very individually made. And this one indeed also has decoration on her hair, the Dresden Decoration. And let me turn it around and look at the very, very intricate detail of the arranged curls on the back of her head. None of these coiffures are casual. They're not like we would take a brush and run it through our hair and take a walk. These ladies spent hours having their hair arranged in a very, very proper way. Here is another example. Very, very beautiful example of one with a stunning gown, by the way, an absolutely stunning gown. And her hair, you're going to see, is totally different than the last one, because at first glance it appears very, very simple. But then I'm going to turn it and let you see the top of it. She doesn't have short hair, because when you see the back of it, you're going to see how her hair has been gathered up into long looped curls at the back, and then a swirling loop at the top. And then she has pierced ears, but she has painted eyes, not glass eyes. And again, look at her very, very extraordinary bodice. So what we have is a doll that at first glance her face might appear quite simple, and her hairstyle very simple and looking short, but not. Very long with the long looped curls in the back. And then around her neck, and here is the piece de resistance on the doll, we have the two rows of Dresden ruffles or decorations. We have the ruffled collar around, right underneath her throat, and we have lower on the ribbon candy blue ruffles, and both of those have extra decorations, not just one color white ruffle, but then it's got blue design. And it's not just the blue ruffle, but it's got black edging, and then the magenta and other designs as well. So wonderful little details. The imagination of people making these is extraordinary to me. And then I wanted to show you another one right here. That is one of my particular favorites. Again, a gorgeous, gorgeous gown of coral satin with seed pearl and lace ornamentation on her. And again, a beautiful brown-haired lady. Many of these dolls with the Dresden decoration on them will have the brown hair. So that was probably a signature of the time, might have been something that they were able to make, but then it disappears into the blonde or black hair more frequently. And here is a very, very regal lady. As you can see, she also has the painted eyes, but look at the feathering right around the forehead line, around the sides of the face. Extra little wispy details of hair that give them the very, very artistic touch. The pierced ears, and now let's look at her hair around the back. because again, you just think it's simple drawn away from her face, but it's not. An elaborate arrangement at the back of her head and decorated with a pink hairband, trimmed with gold accents, and with a pink bow at the side. And now, as if that were not enough, look at her bodice. This is really extraordinary. She has the necklace, like a pearl necklace with a little ornament hanging from it. She has the pink ribbon candy Dresden collar. And then she has the extra painted decorations below that of little zigzag and beads and a pale green color. So all little details which added to the enhancement. I wanted to show you one more. Berta bought this from us several years ago, and she said, from the Margaret Hartshorn collection, and she said, I came to that auction, I lost this doll about 20 years before, and I wasn't going to lose it this time. And she came to buy this absolutely superb doll, of which there are I don't know if there's any others known to exist at all, but this one is so exceptional, and we call her the little Scottish girl. Again, the factors, the easy things to describe, the light brown hair, the sculpted bodice with the collar and the blue tie, and not just blue, but like extra decorations, difficulty in painting, an intricate design. These are things to pay attention to. Long curls flowing onto the back of her neck and onto one side of her face. Very, very beautiful curls. Pierced ears, blue eyes, rarity factor after rarity factor. And then look at this little Scottish cap she's wearing. I'll show you the top of it. So we have the Scottish plaid. We have the pink and black border. We have the multicolored feathers coming off the side. Just grand. And now wait, it gets better. Check out the boots. The matching boots with the same matching plaid to the hat. Absolutely extraordinary. One of the fabulous prizes of the Berta Hackney collection. The collection has probably 50 more really rare early sculpted hair bisque dolls. People sometimes call these Parian. I try not to use the word Parian because it's kind of a technical term which isn't exactly accurate. But if you're saying, does she mean Parian dolls when she's talking? That's what I'm talking about. That's what collectors commonly refer to them as. I call them German dolls with sculpted hair. And they are truly works of art. And even if you don't collect them, you should study them, because how the hair is arranged and the way it's ornamented, that can help you costume your dolls that have wigs and the arrangements that they should have. So I'm happy to share these with you, and you'll find many more of them in the book about her collection.